building an emotional backbone. I think there are many misunderstandings about what emotional backbone is. I tend to like the family systems approach to an emotional backbone versus just, say, an assertiveness model. Because oftentimes, I believe people confuse being louder, being stronger, saying things more angrily, speaking up without knowing how the system is going to be affected by that, and then speaking up in a wiser way versus just speaking up and maybe speaking up out of part of ourselves that are actually unhealthy. Because I believe actually expressing assertiveness or being strong can sometimes more often serve the status quo than actually change anything or be different. Actually, it just ends up being the same cycle over and over again. It's just now you're the persecutor and they're the victim. Then it goes from you're the victim to they're the persecutor, and vice versa, and it goes round and round. And that's not my idea of having an emotional background or backbone. How I see that is basically it's just repeating the patterns over again. It's just people switch chairs at the same concert. Well, I want to go to a whole different concert and a whole different ball game to have emotional backbone. Many of us who grew up in dysfunctional families in which we find both codependence and counterdependence. Codependents are those who are more minus plus, I'm not okay, you're okay. Counterdependents come from more of a position of I'm okay, you're not okay. A plus minus. And I think emotional backbone requires a plus plus approach. But that's very hard for codependents and counterdependents. Counterdependents are people controllers, codependents are people pleasers. Neither have healthy, strong emotional backbones. And again, I believe a healthy emotional backbone ends up being a plus plus, or the old transactional phrase of I'm okay, you're okay. And I believe that's a very important relational stance, because if we don't take an I'm okay, you're okay approach, then we are going to remain in the status quo of patterns that don't work, and we're going to continue to perpetuate dysfunctional patterns in our relationships. Most of us are searching and desiring more emotional backbone. We want a strong sense of self. We'd like to have an ability to be less reactive. We want to be less shaken by conflict. We want to be able to state our wants and needs clearly. We want to stand firm with boundaries. We want to be able to say no in a healthy way without guilt. We want to reduce the plus and minus and plus life we have created around us. We want to not undermine ourselves with our abandonment, shame, fear of reactions, or ACOA issues. We want to know what is normal and expect what is normal for my life, to discover what I want and need, to discover who I am, not a self based on who others think I am or need me to be, and to overcome our allergy to intimacy and be able to receive and to give real love. That's kind of my view of having an emotional backbone. We also want to, I want to encourage those who are watching this video to maybe avoid the quick fix, because there is a quick fix out there. There's lots of them. There's tons of books that say do A, B, and C, and you will have an emotional backbone. Actually, when I've talked with people and people have tried those approaches, again, they end up repeating the patterns only from a different chair in the room. They haven't changed the room, they haven't changed the rules, they haven't changed the game. They've just switched their position around a little bit. and that maybe we can start trying a deeper fix or a more permanent fix. When we try to change ourselves from the outside in, we often end up feeling defeated when we find ourselves back in our old ruts, and we find we can't keep the change going. In other words, if somebody says, well, you just need to speak up, you just need to say something. Well, there are times we do need to say something. I'm not against saying something, and I'm not against speaking up. The difficulty is, if there is an entrenched pattern that exists and in a relationship imbalance that exists in a relationship, and you speak up, that can cause lots of problems and difficulties if you're not prepared for them, if you don't know what to do as what's my next step, if you don't predict possible outcomes so you can make other and prepare other responses and other behaviors so that we can keep the change going. Often that one little tip is not helpful enough. We need a lot more, or need more information. We need to be able to observe more to actually make the change stick. Here are a couple examples. A wife goes home and states to her husband that she wants some time away from the kids and her husband and the husband, and have the girls' night out or girls' weekend with her girlfriends. And she has read that she needs to stand up for herself and tell or demand to her husband to hear her. Her husband then goes on the surface and, quote, allows her to go, but then ends up calling her numerous times per day out of his anxiety or his controlling and abandonment issues. This ends up ruining her trip. The wife gives up and says, it's just not worth it to stand up for myself. See what happens? It's just, I'm miserable if I stay home, and I'm miserable if I go. Well, the difficulty and the problems there was not that she didn't stand up for herself. It's just she didn't know anything else but to stand up for herself. There's a lot more to building an emotional backbone than just doing that alone. There's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more happening, and we need to be prepared for it. Secondly, a man is controlled and guilt-tripped by his mother that he tries to get his mother to hear him and what he wants and needs. His mother ignores him and tries to get him to see how wrong he is and how her way is the best. He stands up to her or is assertive with her because his How to Be Assertive in 3 Easy Steps, his How to Be Assertive in 3 Easy Steps book just said, go and tell someone what you need and what you want and be firm and don't back down. His mother tells all of his siblings how mean he's being. She is also triangled in with the man's wife to get him to get back in line. She even uses the grandkids to get her son to do what she thinks he should do, what she thinks he should do. He is frustrated with all the resistance, and his newfound strength starts to crumble or melt. He goes through drama and trauma with his mother, his wife, his kids, and just gives up going back to the same rut and wonders how he can ever be assertive in a way that works. These simple behavioral approaches, or what I consider outside-in approaches, and the 3 Easy Step approaches often fail. Unfortunately, because they don't address our inner child or the child within us who grew up and was imprinted by our family of origin. They don't address our stuckness within our family of origin and often our current family, wife, kids, etc. They don't address the parts of us which are wounded, hurting, shamed, confused, scared, abandoned, which cause the problems for the need for assertive anyway. We need to fix those problems so assertiveness works. One of the things I found out in doing research on assertiveness, because I'm very interested in assertiveness, I want people to be assertive. Assertiveness is a good thing. But what they found in the assertiveness training is this. If one is just taught assertiveness, number one, it won't last. And number two, if you don't fix self-esteem, it won't be effective, no matter how much training you do on assertiveness. So what that means is there are other factors involved that make assertiveness work. It's not just assertiveness alone that fixes it. Often we don't address the larger emotional system, only what I should do, and does not inform us as to what to expect, how to deal with the responses, how to maintain an ongoing life of assertiveness, or strengthening our emotional backbone. And often it does not deal with the enmeshment and fusion, which has often caused the lack of assertiveness in the first place. And I'm talking about a wider inside-out approach to building emotional backbone. Let me give you another example of outside-in approach, which does not take in enough information, nor does it see a wider system picture, and leaves the assertiveness seeker or backbone builder with a jelly backbone. For example, dad tries to be firm with the child. Child goes to mom. Mom undermines dad. Dad tries harder to be firm or strict with building discipline in the child, gets undermined by mom. Child becomes rebellious and dependent on mom. How has dad's assertiveness worked? Not well. Now, why not? He's doing all the right things. He's voicing his needs. He's expecting compliance. He's stating things clearly. He's dealing with the relationship with the child in what he thinks is a proper parental way. The problem is there's a triangle going on which is not being dealt with, which will then end up affecting the child, and also undermining the, quote, backbone or strength of the other parent. And if we don't deal with those, you can be as assertive as you want. If you're going to be undermined all around the place, it's not going to be very effective, and you're going to find yourself feeling weak and ineffective again, and thus give up on trying, because you see, what's the use? So do we tell dad to just go get some backbone and go be assertive? Well, no. He should just get more emotional backbone with mom, and then their child will be all right, right? So he should just go to the mom and say, stop that, and be more assertive with her. No, often it will only get worse. The approach is too simple, too external, uses a non-system way of looking at dynamics, and does not take in enough information. It does not see enough. And I call this kind of a straightforward linear approach, which often ends in failure. In other words, just go do this, go directly and say this, or do this, or be this way, but it doesn't take in system dynamics. Now, occasionally, this approach will work accidentally. So, on occasion, it actually will work. But I think it works less often than it actually, more often does not work than work. And it certainly doesn't usually work over time, over the long haul. Affair recovery is another approach which does not lend itself to overly simplified assertive behavior. The wife has an affair, the husband feels hurt and wounded, the husband believes being strong and assertive, and now begins to set boundaries and be more vocal about what he wants and what he wants his wife to do and not do. He is using his voice now, he's being strong, he's being assertive, but what happens with this power, assertive, linear approach? Do things get better or do they get worse? Well, accidentally, sometimes they get better. Most of the time, things get worse. And the wife finds her husband even less attractive. She finds him controlling, confused. She feels mixed feelings about the marriage and does not focus on herself, but on her husband's newfound negative, pushy, police state assertiveness. and things get worse. So I've told you some ways in which things don't work very well. So what do we do? Is there a way out? Well, I believe there is. And let me share 2 points. Emotional backbone is mostly a fight between us and us, not between us and others. Power has to happen within me before I expect other people to take me seriously, to respect me, to hear me. Things have to happen within me. Oftentimes we don't do that work and just expect them to happen in other people and then wonder why they don't. Heal and recover from the demons of the past will begin to stop the fight between you and you. Others take advantage of the internal fight we experience. For example, we can remain firm or set boundaries because we can't remain firm or set boundaries because we feel too much guilt or too much shame, too much fear of abandonment, too much fear of rejection. So if you try to come out punching, you're going to end up weak again because you have too many of these fears going on. So just being strong externally is only going to scare you more. And how's that going to help you? We have to deal with the internal. Second of all, having emotional backbone does not simply occur because we have learned a few steps or some simple behavioral changes. I'm not against learning new behavior or learning some assertiveness training. And in fact, I think once you begin to change internally, it can be very useful. But to have success, deeper issues and systemic stuckness must be addressed. Using and having a voice, acting assertively, feeling and acting in a self-differentiated way only works well and in a long-term way if, and then let me share some things with you, if you learn to see and think systems, see how your lack of assertiveness and your sense of self is tied in with your family of origin and your current relationship system. Secondly, learn to calm yourself in highly charged emotional relationship situations. If we cannot calm ourselves, then we will fall back into the ruts of the past and our emotional demons will take over. And they'll take over one more time. Thirdly, become an expert on you. I don't mean selfish or self-centeredness. I mean becoming an expert on your thoughts, emotions, and not so much an expert on the thoughts and emotions and reactions of others. Now, systemic work and doing systems work does mean we kind of predict and can understand how someone else might react. But oftentimes we are far too much of an expert on others than we are on ourselves. Letting go of our naive and immature illusions, allowing us to grow up, though many don't want to because it's hard to grow up. Our illusions keep us weak and soften our emotional backbone. These illusions might be, I need my dad to love me to be happy and whole. I need my husband to think I'm special to be happy. I need my kids to not hurt my feelings so I can feel good about myself. I need others to stop betraying me before I can be happy. I need my wife to love me so I can be happy. If I am loving enough, love will come back to me. If I only act like I have emotional backbone, things will get better. Overfunctioning for others will get me into heaven. Love is really love when enmeshment occurs. And I can never get over my past. These are some of these illusions that we have that keep us from having good and healthy backbone. Fifthly, dealing with codependency, fusion, and enmeshment is a more long-lasting way to build an emotional backbone. Deal with enmeshment. That's going to make a big difference in feeling stronger and more powerful inside. Overfunctioning is another symptom of a soft emotional backbone. Helping and caring is not the same thing as overfunctioning. Doing self-care, also, number 7, builds emotional backbone. Let me share a little tip about saying no to others. Anne Brown, in her book on building emotional backbone, states, saying no is not about providing excuses. Saying no is not a rejection of others. Saying no is not about emotionally controlling outcomes. Saying no does not mean we are being difficult. I'd like to recommend some books to you. Saying What's Real by Campbell is his last name, very good book. When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Smith. Developing Your Backbone, The Science of Saying No by Anne Brown. Your Mindful Compass by Chara, C-H-A-R-A. And the Harriet Lerner books like The Dance of Anger, The Dance of Fear. If you need help strengthening your emotional backbone, or need help with saying no without feeling guilty, or gaining a strong emotional backbone which allows you to quit controlling others, then I hope you'll give me a call or email me. I do in-office or Skype or FaceTime counseling online. Please contact me if you have any questions. I hope you'll like this video. I hope you'll put comments below. I respond to those. And I really want to thank you for listening today. I hope today was a help to you, and have a great day.
Hello, Avaya family. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner Ike Allen and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of Avaya University. Avaya is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you so much for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Jerry Wise, is back with us today to talk about when families attack. Jerry has been a marriage and family therapist, addictions therapist, social worker, pastoral counselor, ACOA expert, psychiatric therapist, codependency expert, and much, much more. He holds degrees in political science, music, psychology, and marriage and family therapy. As a self-differentiation and relationship systems coach, he uses his knowledge in family systems theory to help clients get unstuck and find a true sense of self. He provides professional coaching sessions online to clients in the US as well as all over the world. Welcome back to Avaya, Jerry.
Thank you, Andy, very much. It's great to be here. And it's great to be here again and working with Avaya.
Again and again. I know it's great to see you as always. And as I was mentioning before we hopped on, I love your topic. It's very timely and relevant. So why don't we talk a little bit about what are some of the ways that families attack?
And yeah, I've been working with families for many decades now and working with individuals within families. And actually, when I work with an individual, I work with them in the way that there's a whole bunch of people in the room, their family, my family, because we're all here in the room or online. And that's taking a family systems approach to helping coaching people and helping people to grow, to understand that we're not just this individual all stuck out there all alone. No, we're a combination of our family of origins, intergenerational things that have gone on in the past in our families. So it didn't start with me. It doesn't start with me. It starts long ago. And if we can take that perspective, we can I think it's easier to get unstuck and easier to get more healthy, easier to recover, easier to grow up if we take that perspective. So that's why I like the Bowen family systems perspective, or Edwin Friedman, who is also Bowen, his perspective, because it really has provided people some freedom. On this topic, I really wanted to address this because it is probably more common than we realize. Many times people don't think about their families attacking, but I work with a lot of people in whose families are in attacking mode. Even if it's simply a mode in which the family doesn't want you to grow up. You're still my child. I can ask you anything. I just had a client not long ago. His mother was asking, well, by the way, he's a well-known professional in his field of medicine, and his mother's asking him, well, when you bought this new car, did you get it on loan or did you pay cash for it? And he didn't want to tell her because he knew that information would go back to her and his dad, and they just talk about that and how inadequate he is or whatever, or that how can he be making that much money or not that much money, or it just becomes fuel for the family gossip. And it's not really about him or caring about him. It's about, let me gather more information. Well, if you have that's another way a family can kind of attack. Let me get information from you. Let me get information from you. Now, it's not a severe attack as someone disinheriting you. Right. I understand that. But it still is a form of, we're not just being. There are games afoot. And when those family games start, it can feel very attacking. Families can attack emotionally, financially. I've heard all of these stories. Psychologically, they can be traumatizing, even spiritually or religiously. And I think since I have been a pastor in the past, I realize families will get even attacking where, if you're making that choice, then you're probably just going to go to hell. Well, isn't that an attack? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's an attack religiously. I mean, you can say, I disagree with you, or this is what I believe about hell or heaven or whatever, if we're going to talk about the religious area. But for me to say, well, this is, if you marry that person, then they'll never be a part of our family. Well, that's an attack too. Wait a minute, what, can't I decide who I marry? Isn't that something I get to choose? And many families, no, it isn't. It's a choice we all need to make, and you need to make it with us. And I'll talk about that with us here in a minute. So manipulating, rejecting, isolating, terrorizing even at times, making threats, ignoring, corrupting. And I've had some people, even parents, getting their kids involved in criminal activity, hitting, spiritual abuse, as I mentioned, financial maltreatment, lawsuits, etc., scapegoating. Isn't scapegoating a family attacking if you're the scapegoat? Controlling, bullying, lying, withholding children or grandchildren, and many other ways as well. So those are some of the ways in which families can attack.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for going over all those and, kind of maybe getting people to think about things they're aware of in their own families and how this has occurred for them. So let's talk about why. Why is it that families attack?
And that's always a very good question. And of course, if we've grown up in a dysfunctional family, many times, guess who we blame if the family attacks? Me. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not being accepted? Why are they being critical of me? Why are they mistreating me in these ways? I must be defective. I must be bad. I must be worthless. So we tend to many times blame ourselves. And that's unfortunate. When actually the reasons often that families will attack to expel pain and anger they cannot handle in the system. It's not really about you. Now, forgive me, I know it affects you. I understand that. It definitely affects you, but it's not really about you. In a systems approach, and when you think of systems, it's the system cannot handle this anger and pain, and so it must go somewhere, and it goes to who gets attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we all, as the family, if we're all doing this together, or parts of the family, we all unite and feel better when we attack you, because then I don't have to look at me. I don't have to look at my pain, anger, hurt, whatever I'm not willing to look at, and it goes to you. And so it's thank you very much for being the scapegoat and the recipient of the attack. Now I can go sleep at night.
Right.
So families attack to, number one, expel anger and pain that they can't handle in the system and in themselves. A second reason is families attack to maintain the family's super self. That's this one big self that is the family that you're a part of. And you need to stay a part of this big glob called the super self. Or in my family, my name is Wise. My mother's maiden name was Wardwell. So the Wise Wardwell super self is what I grew up in. And to maintain that super self, we all partake of that growing up. And as we become more adult, we want to be less a part of that super self and more a part of our real selves, myself, not a part of just this super self. And so sometimes I'll say, oh, well, that's a Wise Wardwell rule that I'm living by right now. And that they project the messages in which we need to say, not I am me, but it is I am us and I am we. And again, they will attack because it threatens that super self that's so comfortable, even if it's dysfunctional. It still has a certain equilibrium. It still has a certain stability, though maybe negatively, but it's still stable in a way. And families will attack to use power to deal with their weaknesses and failings and psychological and emotional issues. And if you are one to wander away from that super self or start to develop your own self, then the attack can begin. We've got to get you back in the fold. And it almost has that cult-like flavor. And some families are cults. I mean, they really are. And you better toe the line, keep the secrets, don't trust anybody outside the family, don't tell anybody outside the family what you know and what and secrets that we have. You know, that all should stay. Or there was a woman who said to me recently, oh yeah, don't air our dirty laundry out there. Air our dirty laundry. That's the message, that you keep quiet and keep the dirty laundry in here. Because and if you do differently, if you make a different, if you change that, now we're going to have to attack.
Yes, just let it fester inside.
Let it fester inside. We'll just keep it under the wraps of denial. We'll just act like it doesn't happen, even if it's hurting somebody. We're just going to act like it's not happening.
Yeah. Awesome. Any more on that before I ask you my next question?
The last thing would be families attack as a continuous extension of previous generational trauma. So families can attack because of trauma that has been in the family and it gets passed down and then attack. Generally, what I found is if there's an attacking family, there was an attacking family before that, and before that, and before that. I mean, it often doesn't just pop up in this generation. You know, there's usually been some abuse or attack or in previous generations, which can be traumatizing. And then out of that trauma, we just keep on doing it.
Right.
And it continues on.
So here's a question I'm curious about, right? And people probably have different degrees of relationships with their families of origin, right? Some people are really thick in their families and they're in touch and they're together and all those kinds of things. So For people who like continue to feel right, very connected to a family, even though it's an attacking family, like why do we continue to feel that connection, and why can't we just, just walk away and live our own life?
Excellent question. And many times people will ask that question of themselves. Why do I stay connected? And because they're saying, first of all, many people are in denial and don't even accept or realize their families are attacking. That's number one. So they just stay connected. This is just the way it's always been. Hey, this is just my family. You just love them, even though they're taking all of your money, criticizing you every time you're together, putting you down, shaming you. Well, this is just my family. And aren't we supposed to just accept our families the way our, well, yeah, we are to accept other people. I understand that. But attacking is a whole different matter. And so they will believe this is just they'll be in denial, so they don't walk away. They also fear what will happen if I do. And if I do walk away, I'll be all alone. I won't have any support of any kind. So I'll take this 95% attacking and negative toxicity to get 5% of if I ever need to borrow some money or something.
Right.
Because they'll be there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, it comes at a big price.
Yeah,
that $500 loan is.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned money, because that is that holds such power over family relationships. Money is a big thing. That
major power.
Yep.
And who's going to help me when I have this baby? And who's going to, the normal things that family and good families might do. And we think we will lose all of that. Where will I go for Christmas? Where will I go for Thanksgiving or for, whatever holidays there are? Mm-hmm. And so we fear that loss, and we have that grief, and we don't want to have those losses. So I'll stay connected in spite of all the attacking. Thirdly, then you have the whole biblical, honor your father and your mother, which means you should never go no contact or never leave your family. Well, there's also some other verses too that say, leave your father and your mother to follow me. So which biblical verse you're going to go by here? Because it's more complicated than that. Yeah. And people will just take a simple look theologically at that. But they'll feel, I got to honor my father and mother. So that means I got to take whatever they dish out. Right. And so they won't leave for that reasons, the fear of loss. And also you've got societal norms too. Oh, you don't see your family anymore? Oh, what's wrong with you? They don't say, oh, your family must be toxic. They go, well, I wonder are you crazy? Is there something wrong with you? Well, I don't want people questioning me about that. Mm-hmm. Aren't you going to go be with your family this Thanksgiving? Well, no, we don't have a very positive relationship, and there are ways you can answer appropriately. But then they're going to, oh, something's wrong with this family and with this person. Right. So you have societal judgment that you'll want to stay in and stay connected. And then you also have the fantasies. One day my family will be the family I've always wanted. If I just wait long enough, if I'm a better person, if I go to all the family gatherings, if I try to assuage my mother or assuage my father, then they'll love me and we'll all be one big happy family. Right. And it's the fantasy. Right. That well, I'm sure they love me, so I just need to do things differently, and then it'll come through. And so we'll have the fantasies that will keep us connected to that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those are some of the reasons why it's hard to walk away. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of people say, "Oh, well, just tell them to walk away." And I'm going, "Wait! You don't understand how difficult that is to do. That's not easy to do. I just walk away. Well, you just walk away because it's not your family."
Exactly.
You're more objective. Let's talk about you just walking away from your family. See how you feel about that. Right. It brings up a lot of issues. So there's a lot of self-differentiation and self-growth that's needed for us to be able to have those boundaries and go either low contact or no contact, or it takes some maturing and learning to do that. And that's what I help people to do.
Yeah, so let's dive into that, right? You mentioned self-differentiation. And so if someone is in an experience where they're in a family that attacks, like what steps can people take if they're in that scenario?
I think one of the steps is that first we have to come out of denial. Being attacked by the family, and many times I will tell people, well, and it's amazing how many times I've asked people, because they're telling me all these horrible stories, and I could give lots of examples of bad stories, and I'll say, well, in this one instance, I think, do you think your dad loves you? They had never thought about that. Well, I assumed he did, but everything they're telling me indicates he doesn't. It's like, and I'm the objective party. I know that too. I'm outside the family, so I can see maybe a little more clearly. And I'll say, well, do you think he really loves you? Or is this just a game or a power play with the inheritance and with, your job and the family business, or, those kind of things. And so this person starts to come out of denial. Oh, well, this really is wrong. People who love each other don't do this. Correct. I'm not saying you have to do anything right now. Let's just accept that people who love each other don't do this. And it's not just simply them being annoying, or just accepting. They start to begin to not accept the attacking anymore. And they're not just annoying. And I hear all the statements, well, that's just the way my family is. Yeah, but I don't think you really accept your family as they really are. You are minimizing what your family's doing. That's different than accepting this is the way they are. You're minimizing it, and we don't want to minimize. Now you can make choices after that. So that's kind of step one, come out of denial.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I love that about, right, people who love each other don't do this. That's such a profound thing, because
right. We don't think about that. We just assume everybody in the family loves everybody.
Right.
They're just difficult to get along with. They're just kind of selfish at times. And I'm going, but let's take a look at all you've shared with me. Exactly. That isn't how I define love.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, many times we have to look at how we're emotionally or financially dependent on the family and deal with those things too, because maybe the family has worked it around where we are more financially or emotionally dependent on them. So we want to understand our functioning and work on completing our unfinished business and issues which are at work inside us that keep us connected, over-connected. And so we have to deal with those issues, our fantasies, what we hope for. Well, they'll come around. Everybody needs your mother's love when you're 50. I mean, I'm not saying your mother can't love you. It's nice to have your mother love you. I'm for that. I really am. But you're telling me it's a need. And I'm going, you're 50 years old. I don't know that you need a parental love right now. It'd be nice if they would. And some mothers and fathers love their kids, even into adulthood, which is fabulous, but not all.
Right.
And then I talk about once you become more aware of what's going on and you begin to become a little more intolerant to the abuse or toxicity or pain and the attacking, that, hey, I need to set some boundaries. Families who can tolerate this, and families are all on the continuum, so they're all kinds of families who can handle things down here, and some are way up here and can't handle anything. So I realize all families are different. Families who can handle it, I like for someone to begin to state their new awareness or their pain. Hey, I've been unhappy with being criticized so often. I'm unhappy with that. And I just want to let you know. Dad, when you give me a compliment, You always give me a backhanded insult. And I just heard a story recently where, someone had just purchased a car, and it was a nice car, which he could afford. No problem. It's definitely a nice car. Meets with mom. Mom says, "Oh, your car is so glamorous, but you're not, and you're kind of normal and kind of not so glamorous." Well, is that a compliment or a put down? Both.
Okay.
It's both. And so then when you say, well, that was rather hurtful or rude. All I was doing was complimenting your car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what about the other part where I'm just normal and not very glamorous, and I'm 39 years old. Why am I all of a sudden unglamorous? And why does it matter? And
Right.
why would you say that when you're trying to make a compliment? You don't do it. That's like saying, Jerry, you are really a handsome guy. But you are fat. Well, which is it? Am I, what's the point of this? And so getting those double messages is always very difficult. So stating I'm unhappy with what I'm unhappy with. I'm unhappy with how you criticize me so often. I don't like the questions about my personal life. I'll share with you things about me on my timetable. When I come over, I don't want to hear about XX. I have been unhappy about this for a long time. I don't want to hear about my sister, my looks, my career, my relationships, etc. I just don't want to do that. So I'm giving you notice. I'm putting you on notice. I don't like this. Now, some families won't accept that. You might as well not even do it, because they're only going to use that to attack you more. Well, you don't need attacked more. So we then just need to behave, not give notice. We just need to make choices and not give notice. I don't always have to give notice. I give notice to people that I think might be somewhat changeable or malleable. But if they're rigid, narcissistic, then you can give all the notice in the world and it's not going to make a difference. You just begin to see them less, say my preference, I don't want to come, those kind of, to these family gatherings or whatever. We need to pay attention to our personal true feelings, to learn about systems feelings. And I have a video on those feelings. We want to learn about our own feelings, because often when families attack, there's a lot of suppression of our feelings. Because like me going, well, man, that would really hurt. Does it hurt you? Oh, well, let me think about that. Yeah, I think it does. Mm-hmm. But they hadn't thought that was hurtful.
Right.
Because this is just the way things are. So there's no sense feeling hurt. And so they're not aware of their true feelings. Take your power back. Saying no, setting boundaries, enforcing boundaries, exploring no contact if necessary. You can even learn to say, please stop. You must stop. Stop or I will leave. I mean, we can learn to ratchet the resistance up in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. And we want to become a mirror, not a sponge. I can mirror back what they're saying. You have been criticizing me a lot every time I'm with you. A sponge is when they criticize me, I just take it all in.
Right.
So I want to be a mirror, not a sponge. Mm-hmm. Those are some steps that I work with people on attacking families.
Yeah, I especially love that you brought awareness to, right, some families you can say certain things to and set, right, these boundaries. And then some families you can't, but you need to, right, take different behaviors or do what you need to do to keep yourself safe and happy, and just recognizing that not all families are going to accept that. So.
And do it without explanation.
Gotcha.
Because I had one client, she'd say, well, I want you to come to my birthday party. This is a mom, and dad's going to be there. And they're very critical, very just not, I don't know who they love or what they love. And the son said, it's a 2-hour drive. I just prefer not to. And then they go, well, why? What? I want to know your reasons. And why do people ask why? When I say, well, my preference is I just think I'll stay here and I won't come for the birthday lunch. Why do people say why? If they happen to be attacking families, they need more information. They want to change your mind. They want to hear your reasons so they can even discount those and criticize those. So I'm not going to give them that supply. I'm not going to give them, because that's my preference. I just choose to not come. Well, why are you not communicating with me? I'm communicating very well. I'm telling you, I choose not to come. What more? Well, you're not telling me all your reasons. I'm not 6 years old. I don't have to tell you all my reasons. Maybe I have, athlete's foot and I don't want to walk that far.
Right.
I don't have to tell you why. I really don't. We never have to answer any questions if we don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not a rule.
Yeah.
Unless the judge asks me. If a judge asks me, I got to answer.
Right.
If a policeman asks me, I got to answer.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't have to answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not being mean or difficult.
Right. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. It's interesting to start questioning, right? What kind of things we think are true but aren't, right? That I must answer all these questions, or I must answer if someone asks me, or I'm obligated to always be connected to my family because I was born into it, right? Is it true?
I have their last name.
Right. Yeah.
But they may not be a nice family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're right. I'm not obligated to answer those things. And you may get even more bullying or more defining. And I have a video on stop letting others define you. And they will define you by saying, oh, well, you're just being oversensitive. Oh, well, you're just being this, or they're just defining you, which is also an attack.
Mm-hmm.
That's also an attack if you're defining me, and judging me.
Right.
I prefer to not come. We are adults, and I can prefer that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For any reason I want, because I like chocolate ice cream over vanilla. It can.
Right.
I just choose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm your mother. I'm fully aware that you're my mother. I'm fully aware you're my father. That has not been lost on me.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in fact, there are times I'm not sure I wish that were the case.
Yes.
But that's a little reactive and a little immature.
Yeah.
But I can be immature too at times.
Can't we all?
We all can be. We all can be. I'm trying to be more mature. It doesn't mean I will eliminate all immaturity. I'm trying to be more mature.
Right. Absolutely.
Work in progress. Work in progress.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing those steps, Jerry. And I'd love it, since we're running low on time, for you to share a little bit about your free gift. And then I'll ask you for some final insights. So what is that?
If you contact me on my website, send me a message, say you're coming from Avea, so that I have that, know that, and just say Avea, and that will tell me. I will send you a link to a free workshop and an additional video as well that you can have. That's kind of an exclusive video. The link, I think, we'll have on there that you can use that link to contact me. You can also go online if you find me or whatever and just write to me and say Avea, so we know it's. Mm-hmm. But that contact link would get it there, and I can get you that free information. If people have really appreciated that too.
Awesome.
In past.
Thank you, Jerry. And everyone watching, the button to that is below, that links over to Jerry's contact form. And then you put that information in. We'll have some instructions there, so you can just copy and paste it so Jerry knows where you're coming from. And do you want to share any last insights? I think you had a quote that you wanted to share.
There are a couple. I thought they're very brief. When families attack, this is not us cutting off from them. This is them leaving us. Because so many feel guilty about leaving their family or distancing from their family. When I'm distancing from someone, it's not because it's my choice. I mean, it is my choice, but it's because of things that have been happening with the other person or the family. That's why I feel the necessity to do that. And then lastly, you can live without your family. It's hard to live without peace of mind.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Andy.
Thank you. I really appreciate you doing this again, Jerry, and such a great topic. So thanks for talking with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a joy.
As always. And thank you, Avaya students watching or listening right now, for showing up for yourself and being willing to go on this journey and talk about these topics. And we will see you all again very soon. Take care. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this latest class with Jerry Wise. He talked with us today about when families attack. I really enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed that he specifically honed in on family dynamics, right? What's happening with your family members, those that you were raised by, people you are genetically related to, all of those kinds of relationships. And one thing that I wanted to touch on was what we were talking about around obligation. Right. It's interesting that I think so many of us, and it's a very societal thing that, okay, so we were born into a family. So I tell myself I'm obligated to go to that dinner, or I'm obligated to do this thing, or I'm obligated to what have you, financially support someone, and on and on and on. And just starting to question, well, is that actually true? And right, just questioning in any dynamic, any kind of relationship you're in, am I doing this thing out of obligation, or am I doing this thing out of inspiration? Like I really truly want to, or I feel inspired to, as opposed to I have to because I'm related to you, or I have to because of some other obligation. So just things to think about in all of your relationships. Are you operating from a place of obligation or a place of inspiration? So little food for thought. And I hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you all again very soon. Take care.
Hello, my name is Jerry Wise. I'm a relationship expert, an adult children of alcoholics expert. I'm the director of the Center for Self-Differentiation. I do individual, marital, and family coaching. And this video is entitled Adult Children of Alcoholics and Emotional Hunger. Well, what do I mean by emotional hunger? This is my definition. Emotional hunger is the lifelong yearning for intimacy, unconditional love, acceptance, and emotional connectedness with ourselves and others. Emotional hunger originates early in life when we experience a childhood living with alcoholic or addicted parents, which creates chronic anxiety, abandonment, self-rejection, and an allergy to intimacy. Again, emotional hunger originates early in life when we experience a childhood living with alcoholic or addicted parents, which creates chronic anxiety, abandonment, self-rejection, and an allergy to intimacy. As we all know, the alcoholic or addicted home is filled with a broken model of intimacy, a broken model of empathy, validation, and healthy emotional expression. The adult child of an alcoholic grows up with the 3 laws. Don't talk, don't feel, don't think. We learn, don't talk. In other words, don't speak the truth. Keep many secrets. Questions are unwelcomed. Healthy balance of power is not experienced. Kids are often diminished in the family and made secondary to the drama and neediness of parents. And also, this should never be discussed or expressed in families when we were growing up. Second of all, the don't feel law is the law in which we were taught to push feelings down, deny them, never express them. We believe and have come to learn growing up that feelings hurt other people. Shame, guilt, anger, and fear are normal and are not considered exceptions, but are considered the norm. And then lastly, the law of don't think. Thinking things through is missing when we grow up. Putting two and two together is met with anger and consequences. Often our emotional hunger drives us to find someone who can meet this hunger and meet my needs, with all too often failed results. We pattern our friendships, marriages, work environment, church lives, club participation, all based on our inner model of our family of origin. And we wonder why it always turns out the same. Often failed, often a struggle, often dysfunctional. We go through what I consider family of origin friends, family of origin lovers, family of origin spouses, family of origin workers, trying to find the scratch to our itch. And when I say, for example, family of origin lovers, what I mean is we find lovers that fit the broken model of our family of origin. We find co-workers and work environments which fit the broken model of our family of origin life. Asking ourselves, why do others seem fulfilled or have happy relationships? It seems so out of reach for the adult child of an alcoholic. We conclude, as we did growing up, the very important conclusion: there must be something wrong with me. Not there must be something that I need that I have never been given and that I've never learned how to achieve, such as self-love, self-acceptance, self-support, and self-care, or that I must heal before I can connect. No, we assume there's something wrong with me, and that I must be bad, I must be faulty, I must be defective. Also, not that there's something that I must learn, such as feeling loved and lovable, before I can truly be in love and have a healthy relationship with someone else. No, we learn there's something wrong with me. We realize to feel shamed about our insecurity, learned inadequacies. We build a fortress around our hearts and emotional life, and we act mature or act normal by taking cues from others as to how to act. But inside we are starving for love, acceptance, connectedness, and we experience what I call chronic emotional hunger. ACOAs often experience two things at once: frozen feelings and reactive emotional flooding. Frozen feelings and reactive emotional flooding. These two experiences make us feel crazy. I don't know how many times I've heard adult children of alcoholics express how they feel crazy inside and crazy in relationships to others. What is maddening about the ACOA syndrome is the feeling of being lost and unclear, or confused about what way to go or what to do, what is normal, having no compass, having no map for life. The map we have is faulty, mislabeled, the dimensions are wrong, the boundaries are wrong. Some have said some have said they just feel like everyone got the memo, everyone got the manual, but the ACOA didn't get the memo. The adult child of an alcoholic believes they are to be filled up from the outside. And again, from the outside in. To satisfy this hunger, we eat relationships, we eat cars, we eat jobs, we eat careers, we eat education, we eat achievements, we eat kids, we eat sacrifices, we eat money. And again, we're trying to get all of that to get inside of us so that we can feel normal or filled up. If we eat enough of this, we will feel full, but it doesn't seem to do it. The ACOA lives a life of externals and not internals. The ACOA also believes the things that bring the most healing are the most dangerous. Those are self-differentiation and emotional self-care. Those are things that ACOA have learned to avoid. Self-differentiation will only bring about loneliness and alienation, is what is believed. If I truly am myself, that will certainly result in loneliness, certainly result in alienation. Emotional self-care will only bring up demons from my past, which I'm trying to run away from, because they are so painful or so difficult and so deeply hidden. Also, I have learned that those are the secrets I should never discuss. The ACOA is also embarks on a life of trying anything but themselves. So what does it take to start feeling less emotional hunger? First of all, start healing the inner child. Since becoming an adult, your inner child has been waiting on you. Break the family rules. Don't talk, don't feel, and don't think. Begin to break those. Thirdly, if you're not ready to find love in the right places, at least stop looking for love in the wrong places. That's at least a beginning process. We may not know what to do, but let's stop doing what we are doing, which doesn't work. Fourthly, stop waiting for others to change or to make you feel better. Fifthly, learn to be your own therapist. And I think this is the work of self-differentiation. Self-differentiation practice, learning family systems and understanding those two things begin to help us be our own therapist. Sixth, you're not alone, so stop acting like it, meaning it's time to start connecting with other people who are on the same journey and on the same path. You don't have to do this alone. 7, give yourself credit for give yourself credit for getting this far, given your past, and begin to dial down the self-criticism. And again, the self-criticism is often your parents internalized or siblings internalized and living within you, but is not truly and fully you. It's what we have learned and internalized. 8, begin by putting some patches and putting a bottom on your bucket so you can begin to fill up. This is done through self-care, self-love, self-awareness, self-insight, and self-acceptance. That begins to put the bottom on your bucket so that hunger begins to decrease and filling up emotionally begins to increase. The bucket must be repaired before we can feel the love of others. Love feels the most deepest, the most satisfying, the most intense when we don't, quote, need it anymore. That's the paradoxical truth. Once we begin to fill ourselves up, we need or demand or are addicted to the love of others far less. And then we begin to experience the miracle of how wonderful that love feels. This is when we really start to feel full of love and acceptance. Now we can really start the process of finding intimacy. 9, emotional hunger is reduced when we see its beginnings in our family of origin and begin to be your own emotional genealogist. Well, geologist would work too, but genealogist. Emotional hunger is reduced when we give up, and this is number 10, when we give up our immature beliefs that as adults we believe we need our parents' love and acceptance to be whole and healthy, that without our family of origin becoming a healthy, emotional, satisfying family, we can never be happy or fulfilled, that standing on my own only creates and continues loneliness, and that being myself, being who I am, will only make my life more miserable and will cause me to be rejected. If you'd like to learn more about emotional hunger and healing as an adult child of an alcoholic, I hope what you will do is give me a call to learn more about gaining a true sense of self. Contact me for online or in-office work. If you email me, I will send you a complete listing of all my free videos on YouTube, explain the online process, explain fees, and answer any questions you might have. There's no pressure. I'm very easy to work with. Check out Angie's list for lots of my recommendations. Join our YouTube channel. Share this video on your social media. See the screen for contact information. And I want to thank you for watching and have a great day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Avaya University and our Breaking Free from Abandonment and Betrayal curriculum. I'm Mike Allen, and this is my partner, Andy Anderson. We're the founders of Avaya and the online communities Enlightenment Village and A Course in Miracles Village.
Today's teaching from Avaya University and Jerry Wise explores reducing self-abandonment. You will discover how a family systems approach can help you better understand abandonment. You'll discover what self-differentiation is and why it's important in dealing with abandonment issues. And you'll discover how doing family of origin work can also help you with abandonment issues. All of these amazing insights and more are in this teaching from Avaya University and Jerry Wise. We hope you enjoy, apply the insights in your life, and share them with your friends and family.
And from all of us at Avaya, enjoy your journey, and thanks for letting us be part of it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Breaking Free from Abandonment and Betrayal. I am your co-host, Andy Anderson. I am the co-founder of Avaya Media and Enlightenment Village with my partner, Ike Allen. Thank you so much for joining us again. And in this event, as you know, we are talking with really great people. We're talking with therapists, we're talking with doctors, with authors, with relationship experts, and they are sharing with us some really great tools and strategies to help us let go of our experiences of abandonment, of betrayal, so that we can live peaceful, powerful lives. And today our guest is going to be talking about reducing self-abandonment. So I am super excited about this topic. Please, everyone, welcome Jerry Wise. Hi, Jerry.
Hey, hi, Andy. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. I am so excited to have you, and I'm glad that our mutual friend Mark Smith recommended you, and he is also part of this event. So I want to I want to tell everyone a little bit about you and your work, and then we'll dive in, Jerry. So Jerry Wise is an international life coach, and he specializes in coaching self-differentiation, which is something I want to talk with you about, Jerry. So for 40 years, he has also been a professional in psychotherapy and family therapy, and now in life coaching. He's also been a professional musician, a pastor, therapist, consultant for family businesses, and a family systems expert and a popular speaker. So let's dive into abandonment. I know that the topic of this interview today is reducing self-abandonment. So could you start us off by telling us how you would describe abandonment and then what self-abandonment is?
Well, and I think there's a lot of discussion about what is abandonment and how do we look at abandonment. And I believe when people they will take their preconceived notions about what abandonment is and they take it to the information that's out there. My notion of abandonment is, the way I look at it is a much more zoomed out approach. In other words, let's say I just had a client I was talking to not long ago, and they were talking about how their father had abandoned the family. And so he felt abandoned because his father had just left the family in the lurch and felt great abandonment over that. Now, if we look at an individualistic approach to that, then we'd say, well, he has abandonment issues, and so we should help him fix his abandonment issues. Now, that's not incorrect, but I'm not sure it's the whole picture. The whole picture is a zoom out in which, if we look at the whole family of origin, we see how that abandonment affects the emotional field of the whole family and affects the emotional field inside the client, or inside the young man who was talking about his abandonment. And so that then gives us a view to look at abandonment as having been discarded, left, rejected. Those are all different words, though, that have different meanings, but at least has some of those abandonment notions in them. And with the client who's been abandoned, they experience a loss, they experience a rejection or an abandonment in which they don't understand. Often, many times, they can be when they are young, and they will maintain the integrity of that parent, let's say, and that the dad left, but there must be something wrong with me. Not something wrong with dad. We got to maintain his integrity because I need his love and acceptance forever. So I'm going to paint him good, and then I paint me bad. Then I have abandonment issues. Now, we can also be abandoned as adults as well, of course. Someone can. But what I find most often is if an adult gets abandoned, they oftentimes have abandonment issues from long ago when they were children. So abandonment is when we experience an unexpected loss that creates a hole in us that we have not filled and have difficulty filling. And then we can talk about what self-abandonment is like. And I didn't know if you want me to kind of explain that a little bit.
I would love that. I want to make a quick just response to what you said. I've never thought about it the way you just said it, how, right, if a child has the experience of being abandoned by a parent, that we want to maintain the integrity of that person. So, right, because they're our brick wall, they're our rock, they're our everything. And if we don't, right, maintain that integrity, then right, we're at risk. And so then we put it on ourselves that it's our fault. And there's still this, piece of integrity for us, like that loves us, but it's our fault. There's something wrong with us. We need to fix us. I love how you put that.
We are defective because they abandoned us.
Yes. Got it.
It must be our defectiveness. And because if you were to, and I've worked with families, couples, individuals for years and decades, and how many people will come to me and say, my parents didn't love me. You know how many times I've heard that in my whole career?
A lot.
Years? No.
5 times.
Really? Okay.
Because they say, I know they were awful. I know they did this. I know but they still love me.
I see.
They still maintain that integrity. Now,
Yes.
I'm not saying they don't feel unloved by their parents, because there's that too. When you get beaten or if you get abused, you're not going to feel loved. But when I say, do you think your parents did not love you at all? Oh, no. They will defend parents even when the most horrendous things have happened.
Right.
Because we needed our parents so much that you can't degrade or denigrate their integrity, because I need them.
Right.
And if I get abandoned, even though dad was wrong for doing that, but was it mom? Was it me? Was it, we internalize the reason.
Right.
And then we feel very broken and of course, dad doesn't come back and go, oh, by the way, son, I left and abandoned all the family, not because of you, but because I'm selfish and a narcissist. I just thought I'd let you know that. How many parents do that? I mean, that's not going to happen where that kind of clarity is. And please don't feel responsible. It's all my fault.
Right.
Because I'm the adult. And I love you, and let's have a relationship.
I would imagine, particularly if they're selfish narcissists, that doesn't happen very often.
Not often at all.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That is an amazing description of abandonment and how it can affect us. So yes, I would love to dive into self-abandonment.
Okay. And then, so what happens is when we get abandoned and we feel the ping of it, because there's a pinging going on in the emotional field. When we feel this circuit surge because of an abandonment or rejection or discarding or those kinds of things, when we feel that surge, again, what does it do to us? It wounds our sense of self. It creates pain, guilt, often shame, confusion, self-questioning, a lack of self-acceptance. Because, when someone abandons you, are you sure it wasn't your fault? And why would someone abandon you if you're totally wonderful? So even if they abandon you for the wrong reason, well, there's no good reasons to abandon somebody. Even if someone abandons you, again, we look for our failings. And particularly if we were children, then we know who it's our failings. So we internalize that, and then we end up abandoning ourselves. We take over the role that our parent who abandoned us, I'm just using that as an example. There are many other abandonments, but that's one. Death can be an abandonment, divorce, all kinds of ways in which we've been left. And that's the process of being abandoned, is being left. They're the lever and I'm the left one. And that can be very painful. And so if I'm the left one, what's wrong with me? I internalize this negative part about me because, my parent, my dad left us, and boy, I better be good so I can be loved and accepted. And I already messed up once, dad left. But what we do is we internalize it, and then no longer do we care for ourselves. And so we self-abandon. And I find that a lot of people who work on their abandonment issues do some work with their grief or loss issues about abandonment, because it hurts, or they feel sad, or they feel, rejected. And they do some grief work over that, but they don't do the stopping of the self-abandonment.
Right.
And so it continues on, and then they keep getting stuck and recycling in abandonment issues. It just keeps going, even though now I've dealt with that. I've talked to a therapist. I've talked to my pastor. I've talked to all my friends. I go to a recovery group, but I'm still get pinged by abandonment because you're still abandoning you. That may have been worked on, but you're still carrying on the self-abandonment. I think I had a note here. We don't learn to count on ourselves, and we can't count on ourselves because we will abandon ourselves and we know it. Well, how do you think that helps our self-esteem deep down in our unconscious regions? Or
Poorly.
Very poorly. And so when I tell people, can you count on you? How people tell me, well, no.
Mhm.
There's your issue.
Mm.
Now,
Yeah,
I know you couldn't count on your dad. With that, we got worked out.
Yeah.
You've written letters to your dad. You've expressed feelings. You've cried over dad leaving, and he shouldn't have. But then we have, can you count on you, or are you going to be dad to you?
Mm.
Are you going to continue to be dad to you? We need to get you to count on you.
Right.
And they're going, oh, I don't even like me. I said, of course.
Yeah.
Why would you'd abandon somebody you didn't like? And if we don't like us, you're not going to get your abandonment issues healed. You're not going to get them restored. You have to do something about the hole that's left in there, because you'll keep acting out that hole. I'll go marry an alcoholic. I'll go marry a narcissist. I'll go get into a job where I recreate my family of origin. And you don't know how many times we will recreate our family of origin in our work, in our church, we're going to recreate it because we bring all of us to the system.
Right.
And so people come back and go, my boss is just like my dad. My supervisor is just like my mom. The people around me act just like my brother and sister did. I go, yeah, makes total sense.
Right.
And you're still abandoning yourself.
Right.
And so that's why you're sitting where you're sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that because I'm a genius. I only say that to give you another way of looking at this abandonment process so that you can heal further. That's what I want to say, because that was one of the biggest breakthroughs I ever had with abandonment issues, when someone helped me and confronted me about, well, Jerry, you're still abandoning you.
Right.
And I went, I do.
Right.
I don't like me. And I'm abandoning me. And I keep saying, I have abandonment issues with my dad. I have abandonment issues with my mom. I have abandonment issues with me.
Right.
That's where I haven't resolved it.
Thank you. This is awesome.
To,
oh God, it's helpful. I would go so far as to say you are a genius, and I love it.
Well, if I was a genius, I'd be on a beach somewhere and just having someone pay all my bills.
There you go. All right. So what about family systems approach? I know this is something that you work with. So could you explain to our viewers what the family systems approach is and how can it help them better understand abandonment? Maybe you've already kind of touched on this, but could you dive in a little? Okay.
But I can dive in a little further. Let's see. If you were coaching a football team that was on a football field, and you had a Bluetooth, earphone, and the center, the person who hikes the ball, the center had a Bluetooth, and you're the coach. If the center told you everything that was going on, would that give you some information about how to coach the team?
Yeah.
Well, of course, it would give you some information. That's right. But it would only give you information from the center's point of view.
Yes.
Now, if we then take someone, put them at the ceiling of the stadium, looking down, seeing both teams and everything that's happening, then telling the coach what's going on and giving him some advice, do you think the coach would even do better?
Yes.
The coach would even do better. And because he has zoomed out his view. And so the limited view from just the center would say, oh, I see JR is over there, so I want you to send Smithy to the right. And the coach says, okay, tell Smithy to go to the right. We're going to go that way. The guy up here is going, oh, but he doesn't see the whole picture. You need to send Smithy to the left, not to the right, because I see the whole thing and what's going to happen after this and after that, the way they're lined up. The center doesn't see that.
Right.
Now the coach tells Smithy, no, Smithy, go to the left. Don't go to the right. In the view that you have, whether narrow or wide, defines what your solutions are going to be, and will inform your decisions and your problem solving. So if you take a family systems perspective rather than just you and the world, you take you and the whole system and see how it operates and see how relationships operate, then that informs your decision making, your recovery, your running left or running right. You will then make fewer errors, you'll have better problem formulation, and you'll move forward better with a more systems approach than just, okay, you're upset with your mom, tell me about your anger, okay, we're done for today.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing evil about that. It's just not a wide enough perspective. For example, if a couple comes to me and they argue all the time, I can take a more narrowed or what individualistic view of their problem, and they're arguing. That pulls me in to be the referee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're here to fight, and I'm supposed to save them from this fight. And Mary wants me to fix John, and John wants me to fix Mary, right?
Yes.
That's why they're here. You need to fix my husband, you need to fix my wife. And they argue all the time. And I can go, well, let me try to help you say different things when you argue. Let me try to help you be a better listener. There's nothing wrong with saying better things, nothing wrong with being a better listener. And in fact, Mary and John, here's some books you can read about how you can communicate better, or maybe how you can maybe argue less. That is if I have that perspective or paradigm, that's what I would offer them. If I have this perspective, which is a family systems perspective, I would then go, Mary and John, you guys fight all the time. Are you aware of that? Well, yes, that's why we've come here, for you to help us to stop it. And I go, well, I'm not sure you want to stop it, is first of all, because I think there are some upsides as well as some downsides to your arguing all the time. Because in a family systems perspective, everything is paradoxical. The bad has good sides and the good has bad sides. So that's always true in life. If I give up on my guilt, if I feel guilty all the time, do you know that if I get up on my guilt, it could really mess up my life and my anxiety? Because my guilt keeps me safe in some ways. So I have to be able to manage the anxiety before I can give up the guilt.
Got it.
Because if I stop feeling guilty, I may lose 3 friends and half my family. So I better hold on to my guilt because it keeps me connected to all them. Well, let's try to work that out so you can give up your guilt and not suffer with the downsides.
Right.
That's the way you put it together.
Mm-hmm.
So with John and Mary, I'd say, hey, Mary and John, you guys came to me and you said you feel so distant with each other. You're just so distant and you can't get close and you argue all the time. What if I were to suggest that you're actually enmeshed and you're too close? And that's why you argue so much. You ping each other too much. You have too much closeness. You need more distance so that you can be more close. Now, I've just shared with them a family systems perspective of what's going on with them. Do you think that might be more helpful, an approach and a road to go down, than here's a book and let's talk better?
Absolutely.
So that's why I value the family systems approach. It looks at the whole, and it looks at the underlying root causes rather than just the content. It looks at the process of what's going on. I don't care about their arguments. They would argue about anything. Usually they would say, I'd say, do you guys argue about really important things? Oh, no, not really. Mm-hmm. We just argue all the time about nothing because it's not about the arguments.
Right.
It's about managing distance, and it's
Mm.
about managing intimacy. And that's a broader view. And if we could look at that, then we go, oh, well, maybe, well, you've just changed my mind about that. So we've just reframed it. And now now their arguments are harder to have.
Right.
Why? Because I just exposed the game.
Exactly.
So now they're going, well, I want to fight, but that will just make us more. Oh, Jerry just messed up our whole way of doing our marriage. I'm glad I messed that up. What I wanted to do.
Cheers to that.
Could have a better marriage. Well, I've preached long enough.
There you go. So awesome. Thank you for describing that. And I love all of that, and how I'm sure our viewers could relate to potentially a relationship they are in, or a past relationship or something, as far as like exposing the game, right? Exposing the game of arguing and what that is. So let's dive into self-differentiation. I think, yeah, self-differentiation. What is this? This is something you talk a lot about in your work, and could you tie it back into the abandonment topic as well?
I believe I could. Let me give that a try. And these are all big words, and they can be tricky because they sound so psychobabblish. But we're actually trying to use a shorthand to talk about an experience. So whenever you use a shorthand to talk about an experience, it can get wordy, or you can use weird words. Like, here's another word: undifferentiated closeness. That's just enmeshment, because it's closeness without any differentiation. Mm-hmm. You're just globbed together. Differentiated closeness is you are you, they are them, and you connect. That's self-differentiation. Differentiated closeness, where we balance the togetherness and separate forces in all of the family system, because it's all balanced on togetherness and separate forces. And if you don't balance those well, if they don't balance well in your life, you'll become over together, over separate. You'll fall off the edge on all those. We want to have an even, where I am me while connecting with you.
Right.
And that's a simple definition of self-differentiation. It's not my term. It's a Murray Bowen Family Systems term. He was the grandfather of family therapy. And the self-differentiation is in other words, self-differentiation is the family systems word for self-esteem.
Got it.
Because self-esteem is an individualistic notion. It doesn't really have much connection with other people. It's how I feel inside. Not a bad term. I use self-esteem. I use all the individualistic terms also. But I also want to go, but how much are you a self in a system? Because we are never not in systems. Mm-hmm. And Bowen would say, your family of origin is forever in you. So It's not like, and one of the goals that I work on is how can we get them out of us so that we can be more of us, and not just in my case, Wise, Wardwell, super self, we call it. That's my mother's maiden name and my dad's name. And I become the Wise, Wardwell, super self that I'm a part of, but yet I'm still Jerry. I'm not much of Jerry. I'm just Jerry Wise Wardwell. Well, when am I going to be Jerry? Mm-hmm. Jerry, not Wise Wardwell. I'll always have some, but I want to be more me than more it.
Yes.
And so self-differentiation is the process of you differentiating from that clump that we've grown up in, becoming ourselves, maturing, becoming adults, and being able to connect with others. That's maturity. That's self-differentiation. I know where I end and where you begin. Mm-hmm. That's tricky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not telling anybody it's easy.
Right.
I've been practicing this for a long time, and it's still tricky.
Mm-hmm.
But
So,
it's a worthwhile thing. Oh, and and abandonment. I'm sorry, I didn't go to.
yeah,
Do
no,
we,
that's yes, please. Yeah. Attach those. So how does knowing more about that help someone, viewers watching right now who are dealing with these abandonment issues in their life?
right. And I believe if we can reduce the enmeshment, we can reduce the abandonment,
Okay.
because it's the enmeshment that pings us and gives us that pain about abandonment. And again, that enmeshment is a part of our fantasy and fairy tale life, that someone's going to love me like I always wanted them to. People are going to take care of me. People are going to, it's a fairy tale kind of world. And when we grow up as adults, we know, wait a minute, I'm going to have to take care of me.
Right.
Doesn't mean I can't find someone who doesn't love me or doesn't care about me, but I'm going to have to take care of me. Not mom and dad, not, and so I'm going to have to give up that fairy tale. Also, by being enmeshed, I think I will somehow get what I need, or at least my dependency needs. I'll get what I need. The problem is you don't. Enmeshment is always a failed process.
Mm-hmm.
Or we use the word codependency too. Enmeshment is the family systems term. Codependency is the chemical dependency term for that kind of dynamic. And if we are enmeshed, we don't get what we need.
Right.
So we want to work on enmeshment. Our abandonment issues will go down, and our abandonment pinging and our abandonment fears, because it's only when you're enmeshed like this, you're going to have so much fear and anxiety.
Got it.
And so we want to reduce that. If you increase self-differentiation, being yourself, again, didn't I talk about how we self-abandon?
Yes.
If we start reducing our self-abandon and differentiate and be our real selves, be an authentic self, well, then we're not going to be self-abandoning so much, and it's going to reduce and it's going to go down, and we're not going to feel that pain. Somebody says, well, I just wonder about our friendship. And then we freak out and feel abandoned because we have an abandonment reaction. But if I'm more self-differentiated, if I'm more self-caring, and if I can count on me, I then don't get so reactive. And I can say, well, that's sad to hear. I'm sorry you feel that way. Can we talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
That's more of an adult approach rather than, oh my gosh, you're going to take away everything that's inside of me. Well, that's because we're enmeshed.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So the self-differentiation goes hand in hand. The other thing we'll do if we self-differentiate, we will let go of some primary abandoners, because oftentimes we have a bunch of abandoners that we've collected over the years. And we can let go of some of those abandoners and find people who don't abandon.
Right.
I always was worried all the time that I was going to be abandoned, all the time, as a pastor, when I was younger, that everybody's going to leave me. Do you know what I was afraid of?
Mm-mm.
I would leave me. Because I couldn't count on me.
Right.
So I feared everybody was going to do this.
Right.
And so I have to work on that self and the sense of self so that I can then function in the system, which then feels like it feels very connected. And in fact, I don't know if can I mention an author's book?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Brene Brown, in her new book, Braving the Wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent book. In fact, I'll jump up here. The quest for true belonging and the courage to stand alone.
Mm-hmm.
Braving the Wilderness. And so it's the courage to stand alone while connecting and belonging. And she comes from the same background of Bowen Family Systems. So does Harriet Lerner, so does Brene Brown, so does Jenny Brown in her book, Growing Yourself Up. And we all share the same family systems notions.
Got it.
So I hope I haven't confused with all
No.
this.
No, I think that that's beautiful, and I'm really blown away by this conversation. I love talking about this. We did an overcoming codependency event last year that was amazing and just changed so many lives, and I still just get the chills thinking about it. And so this conversation is really bringing me, back into that as well, because it is really right. How is it that we can connect and have these amazing intimate relationships while at the same time self-differentiating, right? Maintaining ourself and not abandoning ourself. And I think that that's so key. So before we start wrapping up here, I want to ask you one question. So one thing we're doing for our audience is every interview in this Breaking Free from Abandonment and Betrayal series, we're doing a challenge. So if you were to have an action step or an exercise or something that everyone could take on to help them reduce self-abandonment, what would that be? To put you on the spot.
Sure. No. And I would have 20 of them. But I'm trying to think of if I can share, it is the process of changing your paradigm versus taking action steps. Because if you have an inadequate paradigm and not looking in a family systems way, you can take all the actions you want and you'll still come up with the same problem, or you'll continue to recycle. So what I tell people to do is let's start out by learning how to see differently. How can we see differently? And that will take some learning, such as reading the book Growing Yourself Up by Jenny Brown. That would be where I would have someone start, rather than going, okay, you just need to tell all those people who abandoned you to go away. You can do that. And that may not even be a bad thing to do. But the problem is, a year later, you're going to have them all replaced with people who abandon you. Mm-hmm. So any step I give you, if the engine's not running right, it's gonna. So what I try to do is try to fix the engine. And so the engine, like reading Jenny Brown's book, Growing Yourself Up, watching the videos that I have up there, because that's why I put them up there for free also on my YouTube, so people can get that information. And then I work with people to help live that out and tweak that out and how they can apply that to themselves. Getting back to your question, is there anything I would, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. Begin to resist self-abandonment. Begin to notice it and begin to resist it and go, gosh, I think I'm just giving up on myself right here. I'm giving in. I've totally just disregarded me. I'm not going to do that right now. I may do it poorly. And by the way, I have a saying, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Because it's still worth doing.
Right.
So it's worth doing poorly. I'd rather you do it poorly than not at all. And so do it poorly to begin to resist self-abandonment. Begin to count on yourself.
Yes.
And that's self-love. We talk about self-love and self-acceptance, but I'm kind of talking about it from a systems perspective. But I could say self-love, but a lot of people, I like to put it into real operational terms. Like, let's stop self-abandoning. Stop leaving yourself in the corner and going on with whatever you're doing. And when somebody says, when mom says, well, you're coming on Christmas and you're coming Christmas Eve because that's the way we've always done it. Self-abandonment goes, okay, mom, I'll be there. That's self-abandonment. Because that's not what you want. It's not what you want to do. And you say, Mom, I know we've always done that. I understand the importance of that, but I have a different preference, and I'm not going to give up my preference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how I deal with the fallout from that, I may need to talk to Jerry about. What do I do with the fallout? Because it's an ongoing process of staying self-differentiated, because mom's going to retort, and there's going to be this dance going back and forth. And if you continue to work on that dance, you will find yourself coming out of the woods.
Mm.
And that's
Awesome. Thank you.
is helpful, but
It's amazingly helpful, and I appreciate it. And yes, everyone, please take that on. Start recognizing when you are self-abandoning and starting to resist it, and starting to look at the areas where you're not counting on yourself, or you're, what you just said reminded me of something my partner Ike says a lot, which is like, are you operating from inspiration, desperation, or obligation, right? And it sounds like, right, that scenario was like, oh, I'm obligated, or I feel obligated to go do this family time or whatever when I am inspired to do something different, right? So I love it.
the other thing nice about healing self-abandonment and recovering from self-abandonment is that it's a prophylaxis or a protection against abandonment. If I am not abandoning me, and I'm not going to, how can you abandon me?
Right.
How are you going to do that?
Right.
Now, I may feel upset that you've changed your mind, or there may be some real grief or loss, but nobody can abandon me if I'm not abandoning me. Because
Right.
I'm still me, and I still have me.
Right.
I'm not abandoned.
That's so good. I love that. Thank you. This is so amazing, Jerry. I really appreciate this. This is all super amazing information, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this. I would love it if you would share how people can learn more about you, and we will also have a button below this video, and it'll lead them over to your website. So you might just say your website or wherever else you want, your YouTube channel, that kind of stuff.
Well, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and all of those would be under Jerry Wise Relationship Systems.
Okay.
And then I do have a website by that same name, www.jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. And you can get on my mailing list, or you can contact me. And my contact information is on all the videos on the YouTube channel. So those are all there, and they're all free. And so I think you would benefit from them. And then if anyone wants to work with me, they can contact me.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. Please, everyone, take advantage of all the great free videos and free stuff that Jerry has, and work with him if you're inspired, because this is a great, amazing stuff. I'm totally blown away by it. I appreciate everything you've said today. Are there any last insights or anything you feel like you left out, or we could talk for hours more, but any last tidbits you want to share before we hop off?
I had a note here that, and I think that the issue of learning to count on yourself is what's so important. And we have been taught not to. And we can increase in that area, and also learn to be our age. I don't have to live like a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old in a 64-year-old body. I can learn to be a 64-year-old, and I never thought that was possible. I never thought that was possible. So I think there is a way out, and there is a way to change. And I want to give hope about that to folks.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Jerry. I love it. You have definitely given hope and so much more. I appreciate everything that you've said, and thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Andy, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate you being patient and tolerant with all my gab, and it was great to be on the workshop today.
It was my pleasure. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to Jerry's interview, and here once again is to our journey to breaking free from abandonment and betrayal. Bye, everybody. Hey everyone, I wanted to shoot a quick wrap up video for you from this last interview with Jerry Wise. I love this man. I thought his message was so powerful. It touched me in my own abandonment issues in my life in so many ways, and I really hope that you guys got a lot out of it, as did I. So, one of the first things that Jerry said that I really wanted to touch on was how a lot of us, right, have had these experiences of being abandoned as a child, right? It might have been a parent or a death or something like that, a divorced parent, a parent who leaves, those kinds of things. So one thing I thought was just so interesting was how he said that we maintain the integrity of the parent who abandoned us because we need them to love us. And I've had my own experiences as a child when my father and mother got divorced, and I never quite realized how much I did that same thing, really, until Jerry just said that. So, how many of you can relate to the fact that you may have maintained the integrity of that parent because they were, right, they were your rock, they were your brick wall, they were that person that was you required love from? And if they left, then you had to maintain the integrity of them. And so if it wasn't something that was going on in their life or a challenge they were having in your life, which is why they left, then it must have been because of you. So you internalize it. I just thought this was so powerful. So if this is something that you recognize in your own life, in your own past, be aware of it, shine light on it. This is just an amazing acknowledgement in your life if this is something that you can relate to. So I wanted to touch on that because I related to it so much. And then this really tied into Jerry talking about our self-abandonment. So if this is an experience you've had, or you've had a similar experience of abandonment in your life, right, we can make it our fault because we want to maintain that integrity of that parent or somebody else who we looked up to. Making it our fault is a way to eventually start to abandon ourselves, right? Because we're no longer caring for ourselves. We're saying something's wrong with us. Something must be wrong with us. So we abandon ourselves. And this is how all of these abandonment issues, this recreating the past, starts to come into our future. This is how we can have relationships over and over again cycle in our life. And we have this continual experience of abandonment, of betrayal, of being left, those kinds of things, because we have literally stopped caring for ourselves. We have literally stopped loving ourselves because we started telling ourselves when we were a kid that it was our fault, right? That person left, or they didn't choose me on the kickball team, or whatever the experience was for you. So just take this information in. This is very powerful stuff that Jerry shared today. And another thing I wanted to touch on real quick was this self-differentiation. I mentioned it during the interview. It reminded me a lot of the conversations I had with people in our Overcoming Codependency event, which was so amazing and magical to me. It was one of my favorite things I've ever done, actually. And it reminded me a lot of that because we talked a lot about this self-abandonment, this, difference between being enmeshed with your partner and being whole and complete on your own, but connected to your partner. So what Jerry was talking about was the self-differentiation, being able to recognize yourself as a different person from your partner, or a friend, or a parent, or a family system in the case of Jerry, and standing on your own, but also being connected. So he talked about how when we reduce enmeshment, it reduces our abandonment or our fears of abandonment, because we're starting to count on ourselves, we're starting to rely on ourselves and care for ourselves again. So, another thing he said was, if I'm not abandoning me, it's actually protective from, being abandoned, from having the experience of being abandoned. So all really powerful stuff. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And I last wanted to touch on the challenge that Jerry gave us, was to just start to notice when you are self-abandoning, when you are disregarding yourself, when you are giving up on yourself, when you are not counting on yourself, and start to begin to resist that. Recognize it, start to begin to resist it. And we'd love it if you'd share your experience of that in the Facebook group and take on this challenge today. All right, everyone, thank you so much once again for tuning into this conference and tuning into this last interview with Jerry Wise, and we'll see you on the next one.